Okay, part 16, whether you want it or not. I'll start with the curious coinkidink relating to the 2023 movie Leave the World Behind and the Purim blood moon eclipse of March 2025. Now, leading up to the blood moon of March 14th, there had been a number of blackouts in South America. Millions of people left without power. Now, that movie was released December 8th, 2023. The blood moon eclipse on Purim occurred exactly 66 weeks after that release date, and it all seemed significant to me, but I didn't quite know why. The movie's central premise is a blackout, but even more astonishing is the fact that supposedly the blood moon of March 14th, 2025 was filmed by a remotely powered lunar module, unmanned, Firefly. Now that exact same thing occurs in the movie Leave the World Behind. Here's a side-by-side, one supposedly real, the other fiction. Both feature an eclipse of the moon, from the moon, and both scenes feature references to lunar landings. This seems way beyond coincidence, to me at least. It's reportedly the first time ever that a lunar eclipse was being filmed from the perspective of the moon, and I don't remember an eclipse from the perspective of the moon ever being in a movie before. Do you? And let's not forget that this total blood moon eclipse was the first to appear in the sky since this movie's release date. So that means that the very next blood moon after the movie came out was almost exactly as depicted in the movie. I'm simply not buying that as a coinkidink. What about you? One has to ask, is the movie a warning of some kind? Predictive programming? Time will tell. But another thing that caught my eye is the inclusion in that film of planes falling out of the sky and Tesla vehicles being destroyed. We've seen a lot of both of those things this year. In the movie, a plane is seen falling from the sky by this character. Calls himself GH. Now, I came across this little curiosity totally by accident. The initials GH in wingdings are Capricorn and Aquarius, the two zodiac signs featured so very heavily on this channel. Not only that, the characters G and H with the caps key on give us the as above, so below hand gestures. Very interesting. The surname Scott in ordinal gematria gives us the number 77. And a certain anniversary sees its 77th year in 2025. Now, I'm not saying this is intentional on the part of the movie makers, but what with planes falling from the sky a lot this year, Tesla vehicles being damaged, nationwide blackouts, an eclipse from the moon featured in the movie, and then that exact same thing occurs on the very next total blood moon eclipse after the movie comes out. All very intriguing. Also, in the movie, deer are featured heavily. When the two main characters see deer in the movie, the male character comments that they are a very good omen in Mesoamerican culture. Now, the Maya were a Mesoamerican culture, and in their 260-day Zolkeen calendar, deer is the seventh sign of the 20 faces of the sun. And on this date, the 77th anniversary of a certain state, the Mayan Zolkeen gives us 7 deer, the 7th tone of the 7th sign on a 77th anniversary.
The best even the most powerful people can hope for is a heads up.
Another curious coinkidink was the astrology of Mars from the end of 2024 to Feb 2025. Now, if you remember, on Feb 23rd, Mars went direct again after spending a couple of months retrograde in the Cancerian sign. The day after Mars went direct, DT met Macron at the White House.
President Trump, do you have a message for Pope Francis, sir, who's still in the hospital? Do you have a message for Pope Francis, sir?
Which is pretty weird because when Mars went retro on the 6th of December 2024, the next day, DT met Macron in Paris, Notre Dame. And strangely, both DT and EM have Mars in Leo, which is where it was when it went retro. Pretty weird if you ask me. Also, I did a post mid-April looking at how Good Friday landed on the 88th day since the Saturn-themed inauguration. I'd also mentioned Easter Monday as being 888 days after DT announced his second coming. In that post, I factored in another 88 of the Paschal Lamb, a sacrificial religious symbol. But I ended the post saying that I thought it might all be a little too obvious. But we did get an 88 event during Easter. The Pope supposedly left us at the age of 88. Was he a symbolic Paschal Lamb offering? Maybe. And there really was an abundance of 8s all over the place. The Pope moved on to other worlds during the octave of Easter. But perhaps the most interesting side of this event is that His Holiness left us on the official date of the founding of Rome. And on this channel we've talked a lot recently about how the memory of Rome is being invoked. What with the eagle, symbol of Rome, becoming the official bird of the USA in December 24, DT's reference to the golden age of America, Musk and old Benny Boy referencing how the USA is an echo of that old empire, Musk going way too far with this gesture. We've also had DT saying that he himself would like to be Pope, and then posting this image of himself on his Truth Social, another allusion of the US to Rome, and maybe even to the number 88 perhaps. Now the interesting thing here is that when DT posted this AI image of himself as Pope, it was when Mars had returned to the exact degree of Leo that it was at when he himself visited Notre Dame in December 24. 6 degrees of Leo, Notre Dame being probably one of the most famous Catholic cathedrals in the world, Rome being invoked once again. We can't forget as well that on the same day the Pope supposedly left us, our old friend Schwabbity Schwab was publicly disgraced into stepping down altogether as a Wefster. 88 featuring again on the same day the Pope popped off. Schwabbity Schwab is being accused of all kinds of things apparently. Is he being investigated for holding a simulation of a global event that would go live just a few months later? And then stating that when the thing he simulated for supposedly happened, just a few weeks later, that it represented a window of opportunity to do the very things his organisation was founded for. No, that's not suspicious enough apparently. I asked AI what he is being accused of, and that doesn't seem to be one of them. Now that is suspicious.
We need a comprehensive cyber attack.
I also have to mention as well the upcoming 77th anniversary of a certain state, occurring 401 days after the Aleph Tav eclipse of 2024, 401 being the number of the biblical Esau, DT having been compared to Esau, as featured many times on this channel. Now the biblical Esau is said to have Samael as his guardian angel. Samael's planet is Mars, the red planet. Esau himself being called red, as in Edom, as in Rome. Mars will be absolutely conjunct with the Pluto in the natal chart of a certain state on their 77th anniversary. And Golden Boy DT, his Mars is almost perfectly conjunct with that state's Mars. So another date to look out for, I would say.
The messianic, crazy, extreme groups.
A couple of new additions to my Saturn paraphernalia now. This robot, Spacio Prime. Look at that. Beautiful stuff. And Musk's new Grok logo. I know it's meant to be a black hole, but it sure does look like Saturn. And speaking of Saturn, it leaves the traditional 12th house of Pisces and enters the 1st house of Aries at the end of May. And looking toward the future, one thing I'm sure you will have noticed recently is the telegraphing from the good old mainstream media that a certain country is supposedly getting very busy. A plot supposedly foiled recently in the UK. A network up and down the country. And of course we can't forget how this country has been linked many times to this event and continues to be so. I think it's probably unlikely that this event will happen in the immediate future, and I wonder if there is a link here between these stories and this peculiar occurrence from earlier this year, when the UK PM, probably the most hated man in the UK at the moment, very publicly hand-delivered a letter to DT from King Charlie Boy, inviting DT to the UK. Now this happened on the eve of the so-called planetary alignment from February. And then, On the eve of his 88th day of his second coming, the 17th of April, DT announced that this visit will probably happen in September.
Mr. President, a question about the United Kingdom. Reports that you're going to go and stay with the King in September. Can you confirm that? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I was invited by the King, and it's an honor to be, I'm a friend of Charles. I have great respect for King Charles, and I think they're setting a date for September.
We shall, of course, have to wait and see. Anyway, that's all from me, and I'll see you next time.